When when did you graduate? Oh, okay, I think we will start now.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's see. But we still need to wait for the participant. I'm gonna check. So since we only have like K3 right now, so you want to start or you need time like at least to wait until some participant joining? What do you think?
Um, I mean, Christabel, what do you think is the best? Is it a
Uh,
market? Is it
I
normal?
would say if you guys don't mind, maybe we can wait another 5 minutes or so. Let's say we start at 10 past 7.
Is that
Sorry,
okay,
it's my
James?
time. Yeah. Is that okay? I'm so sorry. I think we have done it with AECC before, right, Stella? And some of the students are actually late.
I think
Uh,
Yeah,
James has given
since
a thumbs up.
yeah, it's Friday. The traffic goes
Mm,
like
mm,
that should be fine, no worries. Thanks for letting us know.
yeah, no problem. I think maybe Stella, we can wait another 5 minutes, I would say.
sure, sure, another 5 minutes. Okay.
Thank you. I think all the registrations students they have got the reminder email as well, right, Stella? Because I think I remember I've got a
Yes.
couple of reminders as well. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Hi, Stella and AECC team. Sorry, I'm just concerned with the time that it's 7:10 now. I'm not sure. Do you think we should start now? And since this session is recorded, so people who probably come late, they can always listen to the recording.
Okay, sure. We can start. Let's just wait. Let's just admit the participant. Okay, let's just start. Okay, hi everyone. Good evening. I'm Stella from AECC Indonesia. Thank you for joining the webinar, the Essex MBA. So tonight we have the Essex Business School Director, Dr. James Fowler, and then also Darshini from the marketing. And we have also Ashley as the alumni from Essex Business School, and also Christabel, the representative from Essex University. So we're going to start the webinar, and then later, if you guys have any question, please feel free to just put your question in the Q&A box. Okay, Dr. James, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Stella. Thank you to the AECC team, to Christabel. So just to introduce myself, my name is Darshini Rajasekaran. I'm a Senior Marketing and Recruitment Officer from the University of Essex. And like Stella mentioned, we have Dr. James Fowler here today, and we also have one of our MBA alumnus, Ms. Ashley, class of 2024. So without further ado, I'll move on to today's plan. I'll do a bit of introduction to the university, and then Dr. James will take over, yeah? So just to walk you through the plan for today's agenda, so we'll begin with a brief introduction to the University of Essex, after which Dr. James will provide an overview of the Essex MBA and explain how the program is structured, including a snapshot of our modules. We'll then look at admission requirements and available scholarships, and then we'll take a quick look at some of the reflections and comments from our current MBA students and recent alumni before hearing directly from Ashley about her own experience. So just like Stella mentioned, please feel free to note down your questions or submit them in the Q&A panel, as we will have time to look at them towards the end. Right, so just to set the scene, here's a quick snapshot of the University of Essex. So the University of Essex was founded in 1964, and since then it has built a strong reputation for academic excellence, research, and international outlook. One thing we're really proud of is our graduate outcomes. So based on the Graduate Outcomes 2025 survey, 89% of our postgraduates go into employment or further study. So in simple terms, this shows that students leave Essex with valuable skills and experience, and they're well prepared for their next step in their career or academic journey. We're also a very international university. We have students from over 140 different countries, and we're ranked 14th for International Outlook. So what this ranking really reflects is how global Essex is day to day. It's not about just having an international student body. It's also about our international staff across both academic and professional services teams, and the way we collaborate through global research, links, and partnerships. So when you join us, you're really immersing yourself in an international education environment in and out of the classroom. Sustainability is also another big part of who we are. Essex Business School is UK's first zero carbon business school building. So it's not just a nice building, it's designed to reflect responsible business in action. And it's a really good space to study, meet people, and spend time on campus. Finally, you'll see the word dual intensive phrase on the slide. So this simply means that we take both teaching and research equally and seriously. So you'll be learning from academics who are active in their field, and the teaching is informed by current ideas and real world work, not just theory. So overall, Essex gives you a strong global environment, solid outcomes, and a business school that really lives what it teaches. I'll now hand over to James, our MBA Director, who will introduce himself and take you through the next part of the session. Over to you, James.
Thank you, Darshini. And thank you, everyone. Good evening to all our participants. Thank you very much indeed for giving up your time this evening to listen in. I hope what we have to say to you is interesting, engaging, but if you have any questions about it, please don't hesitate to pop them in the chat, and we'll pick them up at the end and respond to them. So I'm going to roll through now a number of things to do with the MBA, which hopefully gives you a nice overview of what we are and what we do. So as director, something that I take very seriously indeed are the vocational and practitioner aspects of what we do on the MBA. And what I'm very keen to do is ensure that you spend a year with us. That year is very valuable, and you go away much better placed at the end of it to take part or to take up jobs in positions of leadership and in positions of management. And the reason I'm just sharing that slide with you there, if I can particularly draw your attention to the piece that says consultative and executive education and coaching work there. And what that means is, as well as my directorial responsibilities, I spend quite a lot of time with industry outside of the university as well. And you can see a list there of organizations over the past 3 or 4 years that I've worked with. So I'm very, very keen to keep my own hand involved in that. And that makes sure that that the program itself is up to date, involved with industry, and responds to the needs of employers that you might be looking at when you finish your time with us. So that's a kind of brief overview of myself, and that's one sort of particular aspect I want to draw attention to. What you'll also notice there towards the top is I do a certain amount of teaching on the program myself to make sure that I understand what's going on in the classroom, and that I've been both director and before that deputy director for quite some time now, which has allowed me to get a really excellent perspective on how MBAs work. And indeed, I have quite close working relationships with other MBA directors across the UK. So I have a fairly widespread understanding and perspective on how MBAs work more generally. Next slide, please, Darshini. So if there were 5 things then that distinguish the Essex MBA as opposed to the very large number of MBAs that I fully acknowledge exist in other universities, I would say the following things. The first thing is that it's quite uniquely placed in a very literal sense. So the access to London from Colchester is very, very easy indeed. So to get from the place where you'll be living, either in or around the university, to London, which is the largest jobs market by far in the UK. London is about 9 times larger than the next UK city, is one of the easiest things you can do. It's well under an hour. But there's a slight advantage here, because if you actually go and live in London, or if you take up a space at one of the London universities, obviously you have that immediacy. But as I'm sure Ashley can confirm, the cost of rental and living in London is significantly higher than that in Colchester. So the way I see it is, if you come to Colchester and the University of Essex, you essentially get all the benefits of being relatively close to or easily able to access the London jobs market, but you are not paying London prices for your time here, which is very, very significant. What else do we have? Well, we have major scholarships on offer. All right, I'm not going to give away the exact percentages other than to say they are very high indeed. But we interview people, and on that basis, we make quite significant offers to our MBAs before they arrive here. What else? A couple of things that hark back to the things I said earlier about myself, my interests, and my involvement in industry. The program is designed to try and focus you above all on what we call real-time experiences. Now, we are a university. It's not in the sense the real world of work. It can't be so. That's not the point of it. But we put you through a number of modules where you are exposed to the closest thing we can do or achieve in terms of real-time experiential learning. We think that's how people actually take things on board best of all. We also spend a lot of time offering you opportunities to build networks. We see network building as an absolutely critical element of your time with us. All right. We appreciate it. I've lived abroad myself, and it's very difficult, I know, to come from another place to effectively a place with a lot of strangers in it and to try and break into that. So a lot of the program is dedicated to introducing you to people, right? Obviously your course mates, but beyond that, all right, people who run businesses and other organizations, both in the locality and other bits of the UK as well. So a big emphasis on that network building. And the program itself is, yep, as Darshini said, mostly delivered by academics, but an increasing proportion of it now is actually designed and delivered by people from industry. And we gradually are building up that percentage as we go along. What else do we have? Well, what you can't see in that rather nice photo of the business school itself is that about 50 to 100 meters just to the right of that, there is another very pleasant looking building called the Innovation Centre. And the Innovation Centre has within it entrepreneurs and investors. And we very, very heavily lean into the idea, we introduce you to them very early on in the program, that if you have a business or you want to start a business or you want to transfer a business, whichever it is, you can go over there, lean into a number of their programs, take part in their programs, and actually meet people who really run businesses all the time here in the UK. And they can assist you with those kind of relatively mundane but incredibly important things relating to tax, relating to regulation, and so on and so forth. What you've also got in that building are a number of investors, all right, who have money to hand, and they are keen to hear from people who have ideas and proposals from them. So there you have it, access to investors and advice via the Innovation Centre and a program called Essex Startups. The final thing I think that distinguishes our program, or I want to kind of draw your attention to, is we have what I call guaranteed consultancy internship opportunities. So we've now built up over the past sort of 3 to 5 years, quite a large number of different companies, mostly smaller companies. But each year they offer up a number of opportunities for people to take part in what we call the Essex MBA project. And the Essex MBA project can take two forms. You can either go and write a business plan with the people at the Innovation Centre, or you can do what we call a consultancy internship. And for 2 or 3 months, you'll go and work with them. And it's not universally the case, but from time to time, those internships have actually turned into paid employment for people. Even if that doesn't happen, people still gain extremely valuable experience and networks that they can then utilize to their best advantage when they come to leave the MBA. And we are in a happy position now, to guarantee everyone the opportunity of that, because we have a large enough portfolio of private companies, of charities, of governmental contacts, and so on, that we can bring you into contact with over the course of the year, but particularly towards the end of it. So there you go. That's a very quick thumbnail sketch of, I think, what I would call the salient or the key points about the Essex MBA program. Darshini. Wonderful. So a couple of other things just I want to draw your attention to. We are both AMBER and AACSB accredited. I'll explain what those things are. So the AACSB looks at the whole of a business school. It's the Association of Collegiate School of Business, is what that stands for. And it basically runs a pretty thorough and rigorous audit of the quality of teaching. And if the teaching isn't up to scratch, you won't get your AACSB. It's just as simple as that. AMBER is very similar. It's a bit more focused, the Association of MBAs. It's not as worried about the rest of the school. It just zeroes in on the MBA under a kind of forensic scope. And again, if you don't meet the quality line, you don't get it. So you can see there that by being part of AMBER, puts us in about 2% of schools globally. And if we're part of AACSB, puts us in about the top 6% of schools globally. Now, I have to say, I don't know if you run those two statistics together where you get to, probably an even smaller percentage. But what that's telling you effectively is that the Essex Business School gets put under the spotlight fairly often by external organizations. All right. So we don't mark our own homework. Other people come in and audit us, right, and say, look, you're up to standard here, you're not up to standard here. And if we're not up to standard, then we lose the accreditation. So we possess them. And that, in a sense, is an external endorsement of the quality of what we provide. And as you can see there, relatively few business schools achieve those endorsements, but happily we have. Darshini, next slide, please. Right. Earlier on, I talked a lot about networking, and obviously the kind of innermost circle of your network are going to be your colleagues on the course. Around them stand a whole group of people, the alumni, of which Ashley's one, who's very kindly joined us here today. About 300 to 400 people are part of our alumni group. But in addition to that, we also make a big effort to introduce you to all sorts of people who work in very different places in British life. There are a selection of them you can see there, ranging from Phil O'Donovan, essentially a man who pioneered a fairly small company to stock market listing, through Helen Evans, as you see there, an award-winning charity leader, a whistleblower, quite an interesting media story, in fact, behind her blowing the whistle on Oxfam several years ago. Chisola Chitambala, an entrepreneur, as you can see there, finalist on our version of the Apprentice television series back in 2025. And that's a fairly small selection, actually, of the people we've had. I wasn't going to sort of crowd out a slide with dozens and dozens of people, but the point I want to make to you is that we take it very seriously. One of our missions here is to introduce you to as many of these people as we can. All right. And I think, as Ashley can probably testify there with Alvaro, okay, that can lead to some quite interesting opportunities in the fullness of time. So what does the Essex MBA do? One of its big things is we hope to connect you to the right people. All right, how do we do that? We basically put you in the same room as them through something we call the directors' workshops, and we ask those people to present, tell us a bit about themselves. I think that's really important. Tell us a bit about their industry and their activity and what they do. And then sometimes if they want to stay for the full day, they'll set you all an exercise. You complete the exercise, you feed back to them, and that just allows that kind of interaction that we're hoping to kind of foster and generate between our MBAs and people out there in the UK who may be in a position to help you or assist you in due course. Next slide, please. Yeah, Darshini. Right. So it's a very fair question that a lot of MBAs have. They say, well, look, I'm going to invest an enormous amount of time and I'm going to invest quite a large amount of money as well in coming and taking part. So can you get me to the right place? And I think the easiest way really to demonstrate that is just to give you a flavor, which I'll put up there on the slide there, of what our people from a couple of years back now, the 2024-25 intake, are now doing. All right. And you can see there's a pretty good selections of activities that our MBAs move on to do. I need to update that little piece at the bottom, but just early February, a couple of months ago, it was enormously pleasing to see another of our MBAs following really in Ashley's footsteps there. Belsi, she became the Strategic Transformation Manager for the Hepatitis C Trust through a KTP project, which is fantastic news. So I think there's a wide variety of things that people can do. And obviously, I want to kind of provide you with the proof that's feasible, and indeed that your predecessors have gone before you and gone on to do these things. And there it is in cold print. Something that you'll have while you're on the MBAs, we have 3 alumni sessions a year. So we ask a select group of alumni, maybe 2 or 3 of them, to come in. They will meet you. They will talk to you about how it was for them on the MBA. They will talk to you about that transition, leaving the MBA into employment, which we know is a tricky transition for many people. And I know that at least some of our alumni now have been in a position actually to assist current MBAs in quite a direct sense. All right. So I want you to feel, if you come, that obviously you have your colleagues, but you're also in a very real sense going to be in touch with the people who went before. All right. We bring them in and we ask them to contribute, and they're very happy to do so. So there you go. We hope to get you to the right places, and as proof of that, I hope you can see a little slice of that there on the slide just here. Darshini, next slide, please. Right, I'm now going to give you an overview of the actual program, just so you get a sense of how it works. So there we go. A typical MBA module, and there are different ones, but we'll stick with the majority here, looks something like this. You'll spend 4 days on campus in a kind of traditional university setting. Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday then is a day of research and a day for administration, and then Thursday and Friday. So you'll work a kind of fairly relaxed office day, 10 till 5, all right? Not too onerous, I don't think. Wednesday is there for you to reflect, to read, to team build, all the other things that you need to get on with. And then you're back in again on Thursday and Friday. In terms of the assessments, pretty much every MBA module has 2 assessments, and they broadly follow this pattern. The first assessment is a group presentation. We're very, very keen, along with networking, all right, and along with our focus on sort of realistic education experiences, on developing people's ability to speak in public. one of our views is that if you find, speaking in public is an essential element, we would say, in any kind of managerial position. So each module will kind of test you on this and help allow you to develop as you go along. And that is the first of your assessments, 25% of the module grade. The second assessment takes the form of a report, typically 2,000 to 2,500 words. You have about a week in which to complete the report, and then it gets handed in. So it's a more kind of classical, you could say, written piece. Again, we have fairly tight deadlines because we have a lot of modules to crack through. It's quite an intensive program in comparison to others. And as far as possible, we always try and mimic the work environment. And the work environment has tight deadlines. So the MBA has as well. So there you go. That's a typical MBA module. There are some ones that are a little bit different, but I would say of the 14 modules you will complete, about 10 of them will conform to that pattern, which you can see there. Quite intense, quite busy, but one of the advantages is that once you've completed a module, say on strategy, say on human resources, and you've worked through it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you've handed in your assignments, that's it. You don't need to think about that again. It's moving on and we get on with the next thing, accounting, logistics, whatever that might be. So it's quite, I suppose, discreet and neat as you work your way through. Next slide, please, Darshini. There we go. That just gives you a flavor, again, of all the module titles. You can see them there. There's compulsory modules down there on the left-hand side and the optionals and capstones there on the right. On the optionals, you've got a choice of about 5. You take that sort of towards the end of March in your second term. It just gives you a little bit of choice. Some things we just have to deliver to you because we regard them as key elements of any business. Others just allows you to make some choices. On the capstone modules, you have a little bit of choice as well. On one, you can do what we call either business planning or consultancy week. The choice is yours. And finally, on the MBA project, you'll be able to choose a consultancy project or a business plan. Now, I have to say we have done away with the dissertation. All right, so that is no longer an option. You can see it there, but that's not open anymore. Largely because, in our view, people who are keen on MBAs should be focusing on the business aspect of their activities, either in the form of a business plan or a consultancy project. Okay, next slide, Darshini. Right, so who would be an ideal candidate? So we're looking for people who, firstly, are open to new ideas and experiences and people. That's very, very important. And the reason for that is on day one of this, when you roll up in October, you're going to be in a room with about 20 or 30, possibly even 40 people who you will have never met before. And that's going to be pretty daunting. And we appreciate that. It takes time. All right. We don't expect people to automatically be 100% on the day they arrive. That's not realistic. But getting used to working with all those people is going to be tricky at times. There's a lot of different people from different parts of the world, and perhaps more importantly, a lot of different people with very different experiences of different industries, different activities. That's going to take some getting used to. So we need people who can be tolerant and understanding of others and are open to listening to them and working with them in different ways and having new ideas and new experiences. It's one of the most valuable things actually about the MBA. The next thing that we need is people who have high personal and professional standards. And the reason for this is very simple. We regard you as professionals. Sometimes we call MBA students. I don't like the title very much, to be honest, because as far as I'm concerned, you're professional people who have careers. You very kindly come to spend a year with us, which is very good with you. And then at the end of that, you're going to go back to your professional life. So I see you as a professional. The MBA is a very busy program. It's quite unlike most other PGT or master's programs. You will do 14 modules. And again, I'm sure as Ashley can confirm, it is busy. One module is done, you do your assignment and you're straight into the next and the next and the next. And that requires a lot of personal organization and high personal and professional standards. So that's why we like to look for those things. The next bit is in a sense is connected to that. Maintain your commitment in the good and the tough times. It's easy to be enthusiastic when things are nice. It's a lot harder when things get tough. There will be tough moments on the MBA, if for no other reason than the succession of assignments is very, very rapid, and you will have to manage several tasks at the same time. We regard that as a perfectly normal requirement of any workplace. But sometimes people find that tricky, and we need to have people who can push through that and see the other side even when times are tough. The next one up is people who have the confidence to adapt themselves. All right. We hope actually that one of the outcomes of this program is that you come out a slightly different person in a positive way. We give you experiences with a view to helping you achieve that. But people need to be open to that and confident enough to say that, you know what, actually, there are things about the way I do business, about the way I conduct myself in my work and so on, that may need to change and improve. And unless people have the confidence to be able to say that, they're not actually going to get much from the MBA, because you'll come with one fixed set of ideas and you'll leave with another fixed set of ideas, which is all very well. But I would say that with regret, you've probably wasted some of your time if that's how things work through. But you need to have the confidence to be able to adapt to that. And finally, as you've probably heard me mention already, a lot of the MBA consists of being able to do several things at the same time. Like we say, it's a pretty minimal requirement of the workplace nowadays, especially of managers and leaders, but we need MBAs to be able to engage in that too. So how do we summarize all of that? Because there's an awful lot that I've just said there. I think this is our little phrase from the MBA, our principle, if you will. We like people who have the courage to change what they can, okay, because it's not easy, and we appreciate that. The patience to accept what they can't, because sometimes we can't change the world today. That has to wait. But most importantly of all, people with the wisdom to understand the difference between those two things. All right. And what we hope to teach you on the MBA, I would argue more than anything, along with all the other bits of knowledge we hope to pass on to you, is we hope to pass on wisdom, that capability to make judgments correctly about situations you find yourself in. So there you go. Those are the people that we're in an ideal world where we're looking for this program. Next slide, please, Darshini. There we go. I think we're on to the application.
Right. Thank you so much, James, for that insightful overview of the Essex MBA program. So now let's turn to the practicalities of joining us. The next few slides will explain the entry requirements, the application process, and how we can support you financially. Our goal is to make the path to joining our October 2026 cohort as clear and as welcoming as possible. So before we move on to the application process, I just wanted to quickly clarify something about the different study routes. So if you're joining us from overseas today, you most likely will require a student visa. So the full-time MBA would be the right route for you. And if helpful, we can also share a sample timetable for the full-time schedule after the session to give you a clearer idea of the weekly structure and overall time commitment. So please feel free to email afterwards, AECC, Christabel, or myself, and we'll be happy to share that with you. Now, with that clarified, let's take a look at our entry requirements. So our entry requirements are very straightforward, and they're there to make sure everyone benefits from the MBA experience. In most cases, we look for candidates with a bachelor's degree at a 2-1 or above, plus at least 3 years of managerial experience. And just to clarify, that does not mean you need to have a manager in your job title. What matters more is the level of responsibility you've had. So if you can clearly show that you've managed people or led projects or had budget responsibility or even event management experience, that can absolutely be counted as the right kind of experience to be considered for the program. Now, applicants without a bachelor's degree or with a lower classification, we can also consider them. So as long as you are able to demonstrate that you have 5 years of managerial experience, we should be able to consider candidates without a bachelor's degree or with a lower degree classification. And on top of that, we also require proof of English language proficiency. And this applies to internationals where English isn't your first language. So typically we ask for an IELTS score of 6.5 overall with no component below 6.0 or any other equivalent qualification. So if you don't have this yet, that's absolutely fine. You can still apply and you can provide your English evidence later in the process. We assess each application holistically. So if you're not sure whether you meet the criteria, please do get in touch with AECC or myself, and we'll be happy to discuss your individual circumstances. Moving on next to the application process. So applying is quick and straightforward, and I'm sure AECC will be more than happy to assist you in that process. So when you apply, you'll be asked to upload your academic transcript where applicable, your CV, and a personal statement explaining why you want to study the Essex MBA. You also need 2 references, but again, those can be provided a bit later in the process, so they don't need to hold up your application. And as mentioned earlier, if English isn't your first language, you can submit your English language evidence at a later stage if you don't have it yet. For non-standard applicants without a bachelor's degree or with a lower degree classification, we ask for a 2,000-word business essay to be submitted with your application. And that's simply for us to understand your thinking and experience a bit more in depth. And once we've received your documents and passed the initial screening, we'll invite you to an interview. You'll get an interview invitation. It's a chance for you to talk through your goals and ask questions, and for us to make sure the program is the right fit for you. Yeah. And in the interview invitation email, there will be a booking link. The one that you see here. When you click on it, you will see what's on the screen here. You can choose a date and time that works for you, enter your details to confirm your slot. The interview is about 20 minutes or so in duration, and it's conducted online via Teams. It's designed to be straightforward and convenient, and you can book a time that fits around your schedule. And if you don't find a time slot that suits your time zone, you can always email us and we can make different arrangements for you. So moving on next, for the October 2026 intake, the tuition fee for the Essex MBA is £28,000. Now we know that's a significant investment, which is why we offer a generous MBA Dean's scholarship scheme to support strong applicants. The Dean's Award is provided as a tuition fee discount, and the good news is there is no separate application needed for this. If you're eligible, you're automatically considered as part of the normal admissions process. So like James mentioned, the amount can vary depending on the overall strength of your application and your interview performance. And for October 2026, for any international applicants with an offer, there's also an additional early bird discount of £1,000 if your fees are paid by the 19th of August. So that's something to take advantage of if you're coming this October. Now, rather than just taking our word for it, so we've asked some of our current MBAs and recent graduates to share their experiences, and we believe their comments will give you a sense of the community and the learning environment you'll be joining. So here we have Pranav, who's from India. So we asked him about his favorite modules so far. He's listed them, and has said that they challenged him to think like a founder. So this is exactly what we aim for, to encourage you to see beyond your current role and develop a broader strategic mindset. We have next Amalia from the UK. So she's highlighted the diversity of perspectives within the cohort and also valued the way our lecturers maintain strong relationships with professionals and alumni who generously share their time and experience. Just like what James mentioned, we have 3 sessions in a year, James, for alumni engagement. So that means you're also getting genuine practical insights from people who've been there and done it. And you can see next from our alumni, they also echo these sentiments. So here are a few reflections from graduates from our recent cohorts. We have Nguyen from Thailand, and she's mentioned about the iTeams program run by the Essex startup team, where candidates get selected to work with real businesses on real challenges. So that's something to take advantage of whilst you're here. We have Kate from Vietnam, who has talked about our directors' workshops and how the guest speakers and sessions added fresh perspectives beyond the standard lectures that we have. And then we have here Kate as well, who talked about the directors' workshops again. And we have Jimmy Adams from the US, who mentioned about how the program really pushed him to think differently, which is something we hear a lot from people once they get into the MBA mindset. Now, I would like to hand over to Ashley, who will share her experience of studying at Essex MBA and how the MBA supports her professional development and career progression. Over to you, Ashley.
Thank you, Darshni. And thanks for having me today. Also, thanks for the introduction earlier, Darshni, as well as some of the I mentioned by James. I try to keep my sessions quite practical and more like a sharing rather than a formal one. So, what the MBA was basically like for me, and how it led to my current role at the moment, and some of the reflection that I have so far that I think would be useful for you to consider this path. Um, for my background, so before coming into Essex, I spent about 8 years working in marketing and media agency in Vietnam, as well as across Southeast Asia, been in Singapore, Cambodia, Myanmar for some time. And I was mainly working with like large brands like Samsung for Crystal Cabinet, Ferrero, very fast-paced sort of environments, but also very executional focused environment as well. Over time, I moved into more of a strategic roles and started to manage teams working across the markets. But I think at some point, I started to feel like I understood how to execute campaigns, but also um, a bit on the strategic kind of mindset as well, but not really. I realized that it's not really a full how a business actually work on a strategic level as a CEO for companies. Things like how decisions are making at a leadership level, how different functions actually connect to each other, or how strategy, finance, operations at a all linked together. That's why that was the main reason why I choose to stop working and do the MBA for 1 year. Not to really change my career completely, but to sort of step back and see things at a bigger picture. And regarding to University of Essex, the reason why I choose University of Essex was there's actually two main reasons. When I was started looking for all the MBA program across the UK, I chose any university that is within 1 hour radius from London, because I know I want to go to all of these networking events in London, develop my network here. And University of Essex, University of Surrey, and all other universities within London. That Jim mentioned earlier, the cost factor for those that lie within London is very high. And also another factor is that which university offer generous scholarship, and University of Essex with the Dean Awards offer the highest one, very generous. So that's why I chose University of Essex. And regarding to my MBA journey, it was actually quite intense. James said it was chill. It was okay, like a work week, but it was not. It was quite intense, I would say. But maybe because I was quite proactively looking for opportunity, connect to people versus the study time, as well as some other consultancy project opportunities that the university offer for the MBA student at the university. So that's why it's really intense, but it's very practical, I would say. And what I find is valuable is that how everything is kind of connect together. You learn strategy, you learn innovation, people, operation, and when spending some time to talk to professor, and some of these areas actually quite overlapping to each other. And especially we have some sort of like classroom projects where you will put in groups and you started to see and discuss with people, and some of these things really play out in actual organization rather than just the theories and frameworks, even though the MBA provide very good frameworks that we can frame our thinking, but also some of these case studies, it is a real problem that most of the organization out there is going through. And for me, I think the turning points of my MBA journey was that to work on some of the consultancy and research projects with the SMCs within, and also social enterprise through a program called Innovate to Elevate program. And those program is run by those people who sit in the innovation center that James mentioned earlier, the building right next to the EBS. So there's many programs that you can involve into, not beyond the MBA, not only just as a course. So through this program, I have the chance to work with multiple projects. I did a transformation strategy for a SaaS platform for a educational business. I did a social evaluation impact for a care network, did a marketing strategy for well-being companies. And these are real organization, local organization within Essex. They are not just partner with the university. So you have a wide range of opportunity to approach yourself if you actively go out there and looking for it. And I think that's what's quite a practical exposure and a huge difference that I would say what the MBA is providing the environment for me. As in, and how is this really improve or have any positive impact in terms of personal and professional growth? For personal point of view, I think I become more confident when it comes to presentation and pitching my ideas, no matter how senior the audience is, because I know that I have the knowledge equipped by the MBA, but also the exposure that I have with multiple people coming from a very different background, different industry that's the MBA providing, but also the active networking that you put yourself in that environment. Professionally, I think I have quite a good network to come to whenever I need an advice on any matter that I think if I don't have the technical knowledge of a certain field, I know there will be somebody I can reach out to, and it's a quite a good transition to other business that I have in mind in the future. So because I'm currently recruited at a KTB associate, I guess the maybe sharing the transition from the MBA and how I'm getting to my role at the moment would be valuable sharing as well. So after the MBA, I moved to a role called KTB. KTB is a knowledge transfer partnership. James mentioned earlier, some of our MBA candidates actually have this similar role. It's a three-way partnership between a university, an organization, and associate. And in this case, I work with University of Essex, as well as a charity called Fowler, one of the leading charity in gender equality against violence women and girls in London. And the goal of my project is to sort of help the organization to become more financially sustainable by developing a new income stream. The work involved multiple areas related to research, finding funding, commercial models, and all of these knowledge is really related to the knowledge that I have the foundation from the MBA. And I think in terms of how do I get this role from the knowledge I have from the MBA, is that in terms of the project exposure, it's quite practical and equipped with a lot of knowledge, not only just a theory, but interviews and all of these knowledge that I got. And also the exposure, mainly is the exposure, because I talked to a lot of professional professor during the MBA, and the reason why I know about the role is also one of the professor mentioned that they find my skill set are quite suitable to the roles. And I started to read more into it, and I find it's quite interesting to bridge between knowledge and university knowledge versus a real world organizations. So that's quite helped a lot. And in terms of tips for prospective student like you are in this call today, I think maybe the main thing is don't treat the MBA as just a coursework. I think the main values come from the projects, the discussion that you have with your classmate, but also how you apply things into organizational sort of real world problems as well, and also choose your final projects strategically. Like try to pick something that you think will build experience for you after the graduation. Think ahead, like a few steps ahead. And try to make connection with people, talk to lecturer. One of the opportunity I got a few months ago to go to South Africa and actually have the chance to work on a conference, interview the Ministry of Entrepreneur in South Africa, which is huge. And it was just coming from one chat that I have with one of the professor, and he knows that I have the background in terms of marketing and event management. So that's why I got that gig. And it was super interesting to meet all of the people across the US, Europe, and Africa. And yeah, I think just be open and talk to people. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, just pop in the chat.
Amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Ashley, for your sharing. I'm sure it's very encouraging and useful for anyone who's looking into exploring an MBA, and especially the tip about, just have a chat, be open, networking and that sort of thing. So it's well done. Right. So thank you everyone for your attention. I hope the session has given you a clear picture of what the Essex MBA offers and how to apply for our October 2026 intake. I do see questions, Stella. But I believe we can't actually reply by chat. So is it okay if we take the questions here
Okay.
verbally?
First of all, thank you, Darshini. Thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Dr. James. Yes, we have some questions. So, are you gonna answer it
Yeah, that's
right away,
fine.
right? Okay. So the first questions from Alucardi, I believe I think he already left. Is there any scholarship for international students?
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Yeah, James, did you want to?
Yeah, I was going to say either one of us could answer that, Darshini, but I'm happy to
Yeah,
save
go
you a
for
bit
it.
if you want. So, emphatically, yes. And like Darshini emphasized, it's a combination of things. We look at people's strength of application, we look at their interview, and then we make an award on those bases. So quite a lot of people will have a look at it. You'll be interviewed by an academic, possibly myself, possibly a colleague. But your application is also looked at by Darshini and the marketing team as well. So I think the simple answer to that is yes, there certainly is. I think the next question is also directed at me. And the next one after that is a
Yes.
question for Ashley. So the question for me is, hi, Dr. James. I feel as if I don't have any strong leadership qualities, but I'm interested in pursuing an MBA. Would the program be a good fit for me? Well, the first thing I would say is don't be downcast. All right. I think leadership qualities really is an issue that is in the eye of the beholder, really. They're really interested. I suppose we're interested in two things. One is what managerial experiences do you have? Okay, so how much exposure do you have within the world of work already? Now, that can come in a lot of different forms. When people talk about management, they often think, oh, has that person been a line manager? In other words, have they managed people? And obviously that's a key indicator. But actually, management comes in a lot of different forms. All right. You can have been a project manager. All right, that's a very different thing. Still means interaction with people, but your job has been to ensure the successful outcome of a project. You can also be something like an account manager. Okay, that's another, also perfectly, important part of management. And there's something that we've alluded to actually, and Ashley mentioned, and Darshini. You can also be someone who's had a lot of experience in event management. And as anyone who's had sort of either been an event manager or had dealings with events at all right, that is a formidably difficult job. So we take a very, very expansive view. All right, about what leadership and management look like within the workplace. All right, it's not. Obviously, line management is one of those things, all right, but it comes in a lot of different forms. So I would encourage you, Mohammed. Okay, we take a very wide view of this issue. All right, and I hope that's encouraging to you. So I think the next question actually is for Ashley. Ashley, can you see the comments? It's probably
I can.
yeah, there we go.
Thank you,
Brilliant.
James.
Okay.
So the question for me, what's the vibe on campus like? What are the students like? More millennials, older, professional? And to be honest, are the classes actually fun? I think the vibe, it depends on what sort of vibe you're looking for. Because most of the MBA, we are professional, so there's some sort of professional vibe there for sure. But I find because I'm quite young, and the group of people I try to make friends with are quite similar age with me, and even like much younger. And there's a huge diverse, very far variable age in the MBA. You could find someone 25 or 30 or someone 40 and 50 plus. One of my classmates was actually 55, I think. So there's a huge gap of age in the club, in the class, and the vibe you're going for, you have to go and chat with them to see what their interest is. And I got a really good group of friends on our cohort. We still hang out after we finish the MBA until now. Every month we meet up. So it's on a personal kind of point of view, I would say. And in terms of the campus, it's a big university. There's a lot of departments, and there's always some sort of clubs going on. I was in a club of speaker clubs, and I find it's very intelligent, stimulating. That club, but you could also find music club, and there's many society in the campus that you can be part of. So it's up to the personal preferences.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ashley. I'm going to roll on to the next question. Is there any employment guaranteed after you finish your year's MBA at Essex? So it's a very fair question, this one, and I'm acutely aware when I'm on the MBA that it is very strongly in the minds of all MBAs. What is going to happen next? All right. And I totally understand that. And that question, I think, looms gradually larger and larger in people's minds as the summer comes around. So you start in October and you finish in September. And I think from about May, June onwards, this becomes a big, big thing. And I really understand it. So it all hinges around that word guaranteed. Okay. And I would challenge any university to offer a guaranteed job at the end of any of their programs, because obviously we don't have the ability to tell employers that they must take our students on. All right. But what we can do, and what we do very seriously and very frequently, is we generate opportunities. Essentially, we put you in the same room as people, all right, all the time, as often as we can, all right, who are in a position to open doors for you, and we give you every opportunity to do so. What we can guarantee is you will have an opportunity of doing a consultancy internship, all right, because we have enough organizations on the books now who are happy to work with us to be able to make that a guarantee of an offer. But in terms of paid employment, all right, I think that's something that no university can ever offer a completely 100% guarantee. What I can also tell you, however, is that I know at the start, Darshini showed you a statistic where a very, very high percentage of postgraduates go in, 89%. When we've crunched the numbers for the MBA alumni, that's actually slightly higher. We're in the mid-90s, 94% are in a job within 6 months of leaving. So those are the percentages, and I think that's probably the fairest answer I can give you relating to that issue. Now, the next question I'm going to divide between me and Darshini. The EFL 620 score, Darshini, if you could speak to that, and if I just talk about the 10 years of experience. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
of course. Yeah, I
So
was
the
gonna.
question is, sorry, I'm 40 years old and have
Yeah,
10
go
years of
ahead.
experience at managerial level. My TOEFL is 620. Can I apply to this course with my age? Absolutely. All right. Age is not an issue. In fact, as Ashley mentioned, we have a very nice variety of people on the program. I think it's great that we have people who are older because they bring that kind of experience which you're talking about there. And I regard that experience as absolutely invaluable. All right. Not just for your own ability to progress through the course, but actually what tends to happen is that the rest of your colleagues will benefit from this in a variety of scenarios as you go along. So your age is not a problem whatsoever. Darshini, the EFL score of 620, is there any significance to that?
Yes, I'm just trying to see what's the equivalent. So we accept IELTS and any qualifications that are equivalent to IELTS, and TOEFL is an acceptable qualification. So yes, But regarding the specific number, I don't know if Christabel can help me in this, or we can actually find out. Just give me a couple of minutes. I can take a look at the
Sure.
document and get back to you. But it doesn't really matter, because you can apply for the program. Your initial application doesn't need to have the English language requirement. So in terms of experience, if you qualify and you say you do have 10 years of work experience, so we should be able to consider your application, and then at a later stage, you can provide that. Just give us a couple of minutes to come back with the exact scores for TOEFL, yeah?
Got it. Darshini, thank you very much. I'll roll on with some other questions while that's sort of being had, but thank you very much indeed. So here's a question, which is, what are the challenges that students should be prepared for when taking an MBA in comparison to other business and management programs, which is a fantastic question. So I'm going to say that there are two, or two really key ones, and here they come. The first one is pace. All right. The program consists of 14 modules. All right. That's a lot. So you're going to be working on those modules. Sometimes there's a week between the modules where I say there's a little breather. Perhaps Ashley disagrees, but at least there is 1 week. But there are occasions, regrettably, due to timetabling, where one module will be directly adjacent to another. All right. And you are going to be busy, and it's going to come at you quickly. All right. Very, very quickly. Now, without wishing to disparage other modules, they are a little bit more laid back. All right, there is a little bit more time to think about things. You'll have an entire term, perhaps, to consider one issue, whereas on the MBA, okay, that one issue or aspect of business, okay, occurs in 1 week. But I say that this is the value of the program. All right, as I see it, you're actually getting the equivalent of 3 years worth of content crushed into 1 year. All right, which makes it pretty meaty. But all right, there is a price to that, which is how busy you're going to be. So that's challenge number one. All right. The next challenge is an interesting one. Again, I think it reflects the value of the program, but MBAs struggle with this sometimes. The MBA has theory on it. Okay, it does have theory, but our philosophy is that theory must serve practice on the MBA, not the other way around. Okay, so you may find that on other programs, okay, things tend to stay a little more at the theoretical level. All right, and you just write you talk about concepts, you talk about ideas, you write quite difficult assignments, but nobody is actually going to ask you to do anything for real. Okay. Now on the MBA, we are going to ask you to do things for real, all right, or very close to real. Okay. So there are two more modules on it, one called Business Planning Week, the other called Consultancy Week, where you will form a team with some of your colleagues. All right. We will bring in real entrepreneurs or real consultants, depending on which week you take, and they will push you through that process, okay, over 5 days, and it's going to be busy. Now, it's not absolutely real. These are not real consultancies or real businesses, but they are very close to being so. And that, for a lot of people, is quite intense. All right. It's easy to go away and reflect for a while and write a report. That's fine. It's harder to be put in a difficult position on the spot and have people question you, real business people. All right. And to be able to respond to that. But we think that's how people learn. All right. And that's the value of this program. So there it is. I think item number one is you're going to be busy. There's a lot going on. And item number two is we get experiential learning. And experiential learning is hard. So those are the challenges that I think differentiate us from most other programs at the university. So we have an IELTS question here. My IELTS result is 6.5, but my writing is 5.5. Can I study the MBA? Darshini,
I can take that question, James.
Cool.
So our IELTS requirement is 6.5 overall with no component less than 6.0. So if you have 5.5 in writing, you can still submit an application. However, if an offer is made, it will be a conditional offer. So you will be required to achieve 6.0. We also have pre-sessional English programs. If you're unable to meet the requirement and you falls just slightly less than the required score, then there's also a pre-sessional English program that you can do. It's about 10 weeks. We have got 20 weeks or slightly lesser. It will all depend on the scores that you have. So yeah, you can apply for the MBA. You can still get onto the program if you pass the interview process, but then it's just a matter of achieving that IELTS score or an equivalent qualification. So initial application, it shouldn't be a problem.
Fantastic. Thank you, Darshini. So we have another question here, and it says, how does the program equip MBAs to make ethical decisions when faced with short-term profit conflicts with long-term sustainability? So it's a very good question, and to answer it, I'm going to hark back to a couple of things I said earlier on, but come at them from a slightly different angle. So it's very easy in theory, all right, to explain why we should always make ethical decisions correctly. All right, you have to read up a certain amount and you have to apply theory and so on, but it's not actually practically difficult to do that. The MBA, I think, helps people with this because it takes it beyond theory and says we're going to put you in a situation where you actually have to make that decision. All right, for real. Now, we do protect you, obviously, from outcomes. You're not actually going to be in a company making actual decisions that will perhaps affect people's jobs or things like that. But we are going to bring you as close to that position as we possibly can. And you'll find that you will have to make quite difficult decisions, which actually do have real consequences within the program. So you'll be working perhaps with a group of your colleagues, and you perhaps will take the post of Chief Executive Officer. Pardon me. And you will have to decide in your team who is going to be the chief finance officer, who is going to be HR, okay, who is going to present. And there will be conflicts in your team because people will not always want to do those roles, or people will not be seen as reliable. And you will have to manage those. And those are real decisions in real time. All right. And they can be difficult. So I think my answer to that is simply this. We equip people by putting them through those dilemmas in real time. All right, as best we can, as often as we can, but in scenarios where you are still not in a position where you're actually handling money in any direct sense. And that's repeated exposure to those experiences that will allow you over time, in my opinion, to make better and better decisions when faced with real dilemmas. So I think that's all the questions that have come in. Thank you all very much indeed. But Darshini, yes, go for it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get back to the earlier question regarding TOEFL score.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at our document and it says here between 88 to 91. So I'm not sure the number 620, but if you can email Christabel or AECC with the exact like the results, then we can check with our admissions team and we can get back to you for sure.
Sure,
Fantastic.
and
Well,
I want to add a little bit more regarding the 40 years old and have 10 years of work experience, since recently we have some inquiries from like so-called mature students that they already like above 38, but they're really keen to continue to study MBA to upgrade their career in their companies, since perhaps they've been comparing with other destinations, for example, like Australia, since they have a limitation for the age for the postgraduate working visa. So I think in the UK for 40 years old, it's really fine. They're still eligible to get the working visa, right?
Yeah, there hasn't been any issues with mature students applying for the MBA and getting onto the program. And there shouldn't be a problem at all.
Shouldn't be a
It's good.
problem.
But
Yeah.
it's news to good to know. I mean, it's news to me that some countries have these restrictions I wasn't aware of. But
Yeah.
for Essex, as far as I know, there hasn't been any restrictions in terms of the age
Okay.
of the students. Yeah.
I think that's good to hear. So I think we already answered all of the questions. So for the students who are participated tonight, they already filled the form and they already recorded in our system. So we will follow them up next week. And if they're really ready to apply, we will help them for sure. So
Wonderful.
yes, I think let's call it a day. So thank you so much, Dr. James, Ashley, Darshini, and Christabel for tonight's session.
Bye.
Such a
Thank you.
fruitful session. Thank you so much. Hope we can more students to Essex, Indonesian students.
Thank you,
Fantastic.
Stella.
for
Thanks
having me.
for organizing as
Okay.
well, and to the AECC team, Christabel and Ashley for your time, and James as well. Thank you all.
My
you so
pleasure.
much.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
all
everyone.
the
Thank you. Bye.
participants.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Good
Bye.
day.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye for now.